Good evening. I am Gabrielle, and this evening I just want to take this time, and talk to you mainly women. And this is for both genders, but mostly I'm directing this more so towards the women because we tend to mature faster and quicker than men. It's not because of a gender thing, but it's just the way we're created. We tend to mature faster and be ahead of our years and time than men and do things even differently and faster than men. And not to say we're better than men, not saying that at all, but just stating the truth along with facts and even with mentality and maturity, as you can see. And I'm speaking also from my own self experiences in life and what I've discerned and noticed and observed in others between the genders. So this evening, I just want to take this time to encourage, build up, and edify, and just to bring some knowledge, wisdom with an understanding and clarity on some things. And you can feel free to post, comment, add to it as the Lord leads you with the right spirit, and ask questions, even inbox me if you want to. Feel free. I'm all ears and eyes and willing to learn with an open heart. I never know all things. I just can only give what I know on my level or my dimension, should I say, as I'm growing. And so this evening, I just want to talk to you about they're not the one. I'm not going to say they may not be, they're not the one. And I'm saying this because of this. When you're interested in someone or when you're liking someone and you begin to communicate and interact, and you begin to learn things about each other, you're asking questions to see if this person is what you desire or to hear what the Lord's saying. You present this person before the Lord. If there's someone you have an interest in and you see that they could be husband material or wifey material, as they say, you have to present them before the Lord and see if they're in God's will for your life. And so I want to encourage you, both genders, men and women, and especially the women, when you begin to see red flags, don't settle, don't compromise, especially when there are red flags that will cause, and they say divorce is ahead, or you're going to keep always clashing. Another thing I like to bring out is age difference. A lot of times, not being funny, but a lot of times women, because we mature faster, we like and prefer older men, because by then when they're in their 30s or 40s and older, they're much more mature. They know what they want and desire, and they're looking for love in the right places if they are in relationship with God and they're men of God. That's a big difference. And not to knock men who are still teenagers, so to say, or in their 20s, but from life experiences, and this is my personal conviction, from life experiences and gaining the wisdom that I've gained, I've learned, discerned, observed, and noticed. For me personally, I don't even prefer a man that's in his 20s or a teenager, because they're not fully developed. They're still immature. They're not a man yet. They're developing. It's not to say that, they're little boys and they're just ignorant and dumb and naive. No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, what I personally noticed, for me now, this is my conviction. You can speak freely as you please. You're welcome to. Is that guys who tend to be in their 20s, they're still looking around, playing around, throwing out bait. They're cocky. They can be cocky with an arrogant attitude and jerkish. A lot of them can be religious and still immature, still wet behind the ears. A lot of them think they know and understand a woman when they don't, because you can never understand us as women, because women, there was once a post I saw with a book like this large on understanding a woman, and still with that book you can't understand us because we're complex beings. So it's every day that you learn things about us as women, but understanding a woman takes a lifetime, and probably more than that, because we're complex, and not saying we're complex in the wrong way. Now, when we're in sin, that's complex in an evil way, but when we're in relationship with God as women, we're just complex in a good way. That's how we are, and there's a lot to us and with us, and that we even go through and encounter and take inwardly. Not to neglect that for men, but women tend to have more things to deal with and go through. I also want to say, so for me personally, that's my conviction. I do not prefer, it's not my heart's desire to even marry a man who's younger than me, or so to say in his 20s still, because I'm 32. I'm 32 years young, so I prefer older. I prefer someone in my age bracket or older, because for me personally, they are more mature. They're on the same maturity level. I've noticed the ones I've come across. I can't speak for everybody, but I'm speaking for my own life and experience, and what I've learned just dealing with all walks of life is that men that are in their 30s and up, not all of them, but the majority of them that I've met, of whom I've met, and I've met quite a lot of men and women, the majority of men that's in their 30s and up tend to become more serious about life and about love and about a woman and building a family, about being faithful and about their relationship with God. And don't get me wrong, sometimes you have older men who are still childish. Sometimes you might find a younger one, very rare, who's more mature than an older man, but very rare do you find that. And so my thing is, I prefer older, and my age bracket are older because I'm very mature. And my upbringing, I'm the oldest girl, and I had to be the mother growing up. So, because of my maturity, I don't just desire it, I need somebody who's either my age or older, to that way where the balance will come in. And because of the maturity and the mindset is different, and because of how to understand a woman, they're more qualified, so to say, even spiritually, if they're in relationship with God. And so I'm not saying that to make younger guys or males look bad or say anything bad about them or say they're beneath me. No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, with an understanding and with knowledge and wisdom, I've learned a lot from guys that's younger, and even being in relationships with younger males that were still wet behind the ears, so to say, and still spiritually malnutrition, and that were cocky or just full of themselves and still had the little boy mentality. It didn't work out. It couldn't work out because I'm here and they was there. And in order for us to work, I would have had to come this way because they couldn't come up that way. And so I'm saying it to you, women and men, that the person that you're interested in and that you're presenting before God, pay attention to the signs. Look at how they act when you bring up things that you see in the spirit. If they buck with you and they operate in pride or they're in denial, those are red flags. If they will not say with maturity, let me take it to God and see if what you're saying is what's true, the truth, then you know that they have some work to be done. If they're chauvinists, where they're patriotic, I've dealt with men like that as well. You don't need to be married to them. If they're full of religious and super spiritual, it's not going to work. Women, so they're not ready. And women, when you get to a point where you're ready for the real thing and you're in position for it, do not hold your breath for the ones that don't want to do and apply themselves, or that's not ready, and they can confess and own up to it and take responsibility. Say, I'm just not ready. I commend you, males who say you're not ready yet. I commend you on that. But if you're in denial, that's not good. It's not going to help you concerning your wife. And so I say this to men and women, even men, if you notice it in the women, where she's controlling or lashing out and have excess baggage from being scorned and bitter, or from not having a relationship with her father. Those are red flags. Don't settle, don't compromise, because you are a man of God, a man of integrity. And so you don't need to be torn down or lashed out on or ended up in a domestic violence situation because, or you being provoked to get and react in your flesh. You don't want that. So when you see these things, men, take the wisdom. Pay attention to the red flags and the signs God is showing you about that woman that you may be interested in, because she may not be in the will of God for you. And women, he may not be in the will of God for you. Because women and men, if you're ready now and the Lord has been confirming it and prophesying it to you, saying it's your time for marriage and it's your time for your mate, and you're running across certain ones and they're not fitting what God said in his word and what he told you personally and confirmed it, do not compromise and settle, because they're not ready and they're not the one. Keep your eyes open. Stay patient waiting on the Lord. Do not compromise and settle. Do not do anything in your flesh. And do not come down and be a hamburger when you're filet mignon. They have to come up. If they're not willing to come up, they're not the one. They're not ready. You don't have to wait and hold your breath for them to take their time and do what they want to do when they want to do it. This for men and women. Move on and move forward. Keep it on a friendship. Keep building a pure friendship that's pleasing unto God. Keep being associates or brothers and sisters in Christ. Because they may not be spiritually yoked with you either. Glory be to God. Don't never ever, women, get involved with a male that's not willing to do what it takes. Glory be to God. And if he's not in position and in denial about it, leave him where he's at. Pray for him. Love him with the love of Christ, but keep it moving. And the same for men. And so I want to encourage you, men and women. Whoever, if you're interested in somebody right now and you're seeing all these red flags and you're clashing and they're not willing to see themselves, and you notice that some things are changing, your dreams done changed about them, they're not the one and they're not ready. God knows who he has in place for you. Because whoever's in place for you, guess what? They're mature spiritually, they're spiritually qualified, they're spiritually equipped, and they're spiritually in position, even with maturity, even in the natural. And they should know some things about you because of their relationship with God as well. So I want to encourage you, especially women, do not compromise, don't settle. Because if they're not the one and they're choosing not to be ready, because it's a choice, we must all apply ourselves. Guess what? They're not the one. Again, I'm Gabrielle. Be patient with God, trust God, be still and know that he's God, because if you desire to be married, so shall it be. If you're willing to go through the process, be patient and stay focused on God and not focused on being single. Being single is a blessing. I love it. I embrace it every day. I don't focus on it. I encourage others. I love being a born again virgin. I thank God for it, because according to my faith, so shall it be. And the same for you. So I choose not to settle. Don't you choose to settle. He's not ready.